bringing loved ones back to life. From redefining the sport of Taekwondo to creating a dystopian version of warfare with battlefield robots. AI presents a mirror to humanity. It will do what we ask it to do. Catch both sides of the story on this episode of Tech It Out this week at these times.
For the first time, humanoid robots have been used to perform surgery in a preclinical trial. Surgeons and engineering teams in the US say their experiment is a key step in making the technology an operating reality.
It might look AI generated, but this is a real experiment. Humanoid robots carrying out laparoscopic surgery on a domestic pig under general anaesthetic as part of a preclinical trial in the US.
It does certainly seem like an exciting advance, Gabby, that not just do we have regular robots that we've been using in hospitals like ours for many, many years, but we have these human form robots.
The robots, nicknamed Sergi, working side by side, one using instruments, the other assisting in removing the gallbladder. A human surgeon behind the scenes controlling the platform.
Now, there were glitches. It had to be recalibrated. The procedure took a long time.
The latest development published this week in a prestigious medical journal. Surgeons collaborating with engineers at the University of California. It follows promising trials in recent years of surgical robots being trained to work autonomously.
Honestly, this scares me in many ways because when I think of a humanoid robot, I don't think of a robot that's very good at a range of tasks.
I think to get to the point of doing very complex dissection of human anatomy with all of the intricacies and the bleeding and so on, we're still quite a way away.
Experts behind these humanoid robots say they hold promise in helping remote communities and in addressing staff shortages.
Will I still be able to function as a human surgeon over the next 5 or 10 years of my surgical career? I think so. I think I'll be okay. I worry for the next generation, though.
Gabriella Rogers, 9 News.
The European Union has accused Meta of making Facebook and Instagram simply too addictive. EU regulators say that features designed to keep users scrolling could actually be harming mental health, especially amongst young people. And it starts with just one video and then another and another before users realize it is that hours have passed. And according to the European Commission, features like infinite scroll, video autoplay, reels and stories are designed to keep people engaged for as long as possible. The regulators say that this can in fact push the brain into an autopilot mode, encouraging compulsive screen use. Now, the EU Commission also believes that Meta did not do enough to prevent children under the age of 13 from using Facebook and Instagram. It is now calling for changes, including making autoplay and infinite scroll non-default features. There should also be an adding screen break reminders and reducing highly personalized content. For many families, this has become a daily struggle. And parents across the world have described children staying awake late into the night, unable to put on their earphones. Teachers have also reported shorter attention spans in classrooms. Meta has rejected the findings. The company says that it has introduced teen accounts with built-in safety tools, including nighttime restrictions, parental controls, and daily screen time limits. The Meta says that these steps show its commitment to protecting younger users. The case comes as Europe is debating whether children should face stricter limits on social media access. If the EU confirms its findings, then Meta could face a fine of up to 6% of its global annual revenue. Grey whales in the Pacific Ocean are facing a sharp population decline, with environmental groups warning of a catastrophic mortality event linked to climate change and shrinking food sources. Rising temperatures and melting sea ice are disrupting the marine ecosystem, reducing the availability of the whale's primary food source and leaving many animals vulnerable to starvation. And experts say that climate change is not the only factor behind the decline in grey whale numbers. Ship strikes, oil spills, microplastic pollution, algal blooms and other human activities could also be contributing to their extinction. The grey whale population has now fallen sharply from an estimated 20,000 in 2019 to fewer than 13,000 this year. Conservation groups warn that the ongoing die-off is putting further pressure on the species and is raising concerns over their future. Environmental groups are also urging the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to restore grey whales protection under the Endangered Species Act. But conservationists warn that the push faces hurdles as the Trump administration moves to roll back some wildlife policies in the United States. East Asia is bracing for one of its biggest storms in decades. Typhoon Barbie is barreling towards Taiwan, Japan and China after triggering some deadly landslides in the Philippines. Thousands have been evacuated, flights cancelled and emergency teams are on high alert across the region. The first impact has already been felt in the Philippines, and at least about 15 people were killed after torrential rains triggered deadly landslides on the southern island of Mindanao. Rescue teams are searching through the mud and debris for those who are still missing as more heavy rains are forecast through the weekend. The storm is now moving towards Taiwan, where the authorities are preparing for its strongest impact. Images show the residents taping windows, stacking sandbags outside of homes, and shops and supermarket shelves being emptied as people stock up on essential supplies. Now, thousands have been evacuated from high-risk areas, while schools, offices and hundreds of flights are being cancelled. Forecasters say that Barbie could, of course, become the largest typhoon to hit Taiwan in more than 3 decades. The storm is expected to bring some powerful winds, waves reaching 9 meters and up to 1 meter of rainfall in some mountainous regions. And more than 28,000 troops have been placed on standby to support relief and rescue operations. After passing Taiwan, Barbie is expected to make landfall along China's southeastern coast. Chinese authorities have warned that the storm's massive size could affect several provinces, including the regions less accustomed to typhoons. Now, the warnings have come as parts of southern China are still recovering from Typhoon Maisak, which left at least about 39 people dead early in the week. The typhoon's impact is also spreading across the region. Japan's southwestern islands have closed schools, cancelled dozens of flights, and urged residents to prepare for some strong winds, high waves and possible landslides. Fishermen have also secured their boats, while businesses have covered shop fronts to limit storm damage. The scientists say that warmer ocean temperatures can provide more energy to tropical storms, allowing them to carry more moisture and also to produce heavier rainfall.
It looks like we may be entering a new Dust Bowl period. There was a historic Dust Bowl back in the 1930s, and that caused major environmental disaster all across the U.S., the Great Plains, and they're saying a new one looks to be springing up. I'm going to say this is because they engineered it this way. A mega drought to start with. Then we have several heat domes that have worked across the United States, with a big one set to hit the Northeast again here within the week. And the warnings being put out now about the diseases that they're saying that's being spread in this environment. You can see the reduced air quality in the middle there. Now, you tie in all the smoke from the fires with the dust and the particles that are already in the air getting kicked up. This is creating a very bad situation. They are calling these deadly fungal swarms that can end up leading to a lung infection, causing all types of problems, flu-like symptoms, fever, cough, headaches. But it can get severe, and it can start to shut down organs, affect the bones, and even become fatal. This illness skyrocketing in California, Nevada, Arizona, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, Texas. And we also have a mysterious situation out of the Grand Canyon, where many people that have gone into the Grand Canyon in the past few months have reported coming out and then falling ill. Lack of energy, lethargic, flu-like symptoms, aching body, infections. So a lot of weird things going on in terms of that, but this is pretty widespread. Wanted to put the heads up out there. Let it be known. I'll leave a link with more information.
As our court filings reveal, the investigation of this plot began on June 10th right here in the Southern District of Ohio, when Knox County Sheriff's deputies and Danville police officers responded to the Knox County resident of Tyson Proper after receiving a report from a concerned family member. The allegations in this indictment, we allege, show that these men were not simply airing grievances from behind their keyboards and sharing like-minded political ideologies. Rather, they took action to carry out a plot to attack the UFC Freedom 250 event and to murder federal officials at the highest levels of our government. Political discourse has many places in our society. Political violence has none.
In Northern Ireland, a replica of a mosque was placed on top of a bonfire ahead of the annual Orange Order celebrations. The structure was built at a traditional bonfire site west of Belfast. The replica mosque was placed on a large stack of wooden pallets and set on fire on Thursday, reportedly. The police described the display as a hate display and said it was burned before the officers could remove it. The incident coming just weeks after anti-migrant violence in Belfast. It has drawn criticism from politicians across Northern Ireland and raised fresh concerns about tensions during the annual commemorations. Last year itself, the same bonfire site faced criticism after an effigy showing migrants in a boat was placed on fire. Bonfires are lit across Northern Ireland in the lead-up to the July 12 Orange Order parades. The annual event marking the victory of Protestant King William of Orange over the Catholic King James II.
The American President Donald Trump has once again announced that the ceasefire with Iran is no longer in place. And the announcement has come after 2 days of back-and-forth strikes between Washington and Tehran. But for now, the guns have fallen silent across West Asia. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said that the United States is ready to continue the negotiations with Iran. However, he also has made it clear that the ceasefire agreement between the two nations is effectively over. In an effort to reduce tensions, the Qatari mediators have traveled to Iran to hold meetings with Iranian officials. The discussions are reportedly being conducted in coordination with the United States. And on Thursday, multiple locations across southern Iran came under US strikes, triggering a swift response from Tehran with ballistic missile attacks on US targets. Iranian state media reported multiple explosions in the southern port city of Bandar Abbas. Several areas in the Bushehr province were also reportedly hit, including regions surrounding the Bushehr nuclear power plant. Iran has warned that any further attacks on its infrastructure will trigger retaliation, with Israeli targets also in sight. At the same time, Israel has now signaled that it remains ready to resume military action against Iran if required. The Israeli Defense Minister, Israel Katz, has said that Israel is now prepared to restart its war against Tehran, warning that any future strikes would also be carried out with even greater force. And amidst the renewed escalation, shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has plunged pretty sharply. This shows how the Strait of Hormuz has become the central battleground in a war that began over Iran's alleged nuclear ambitions. At the same time, the US assurances that the Strait of Hormuz can quickly return to normal operations and remain fully open to global shipping are facing growing skepticism. The US and its Arab Gulf allies are determined to prevent Iran from establishing hegemony over Hormuz, the lifeline for a large share of the world's oil and gas supplies. Iran, on the other hand, insists on asserting joint authority over the strait and has floated the idea of transit fee or service charges. Reports suggest that the White House is preparing for what could become a multi-day or possibly even a multi-week or a multi-month exchange of fire with Iran for hegemony over the Strait of Hormuz. For Tehran, the strait remains its strongest bargaining chip. And since the war began, the Iranian forces have mined the strait, attacked commercial shipping, and reduced traffic through the waterway by an estimated 95%. The result has been the biggest supply disruption in the history of global oil markets. The control of the Strait of Hormuz is central to Iran's asymmetric warfare strategy. The US possesses overwhelming military superiority. Iran's greatest strength lies in its political resolve and determination to survive. For Tehran, the dispute is not really about toll revenue, because the income, though, from the toll revenue, if it were to be collected, could in fact be more than even the oil revenue that is generated by exporting oil by Iran. The objective here is to establish a precedent of sovereignty over the world's most strategic energy checkpoint. It's the most powerful leverage in any future negotiation with the United States of America, and by taking control of the Strait of Hormuz, what Iran also effectively does is it neuters America's ability to impose sanctions on Iranian oil.